No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of Monday Night Raw for August 28th, 2023. WWE Payback is this coming Saturday. Sunday, we have AEW All Out. A lot to discuss, a busy week. Predictions coming up this week, so stay tuned for that. Let's get right into this show. We had the graphic come up for Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. We had the tribute this past Friday on SmackDown, and there was more on Raw this week. We had our first match of the evening, which was Sami Zayn versus Damien Priest. Raw opening up with a match. How about that? Usually it's a promo. Sami Zayn had the early momentum. He did a springboard moonsault to the outside of the ring, and then he drove Damien Priest into the ring post. Sami Zayn went for a dive, but Priest caught him, drove him into the announce table, and then after the commercial break, Zayn started to regain the upper hand. He hit a sit-down power bomb out of the corner to Priest, but Priest kicked out. And then Sami Zayn hit the blue thunder bomb and got the 1-2-3 victory. No, he did not. One time in recent memory, he did pick up a win with the blue thunder bomb, but it was not on this show. Zayn was going for the haluva kick. However, JD McDonough grabbed his foot, and that allowed Damien Priest to take advantage, hit the South of Heaven choke slam, and score the 1-2-3 victory. Damien Priest picks up the victory, and afterwards, McDonough got in the ring. Priest was not happy with him. Priest ended up shoving McDonough down. They're still not friends. Owens and Zayn double-teamed McDonough. Kevin Owens gave McDonough the stunner, and then Sami Zayn took him down with the haluva kick. Match was fine. They set up the tag team title match. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn defending the tag team titles against the Judgment Day. I'm ready for this feud to be over. I think it's worn out its welcome at this point. So I'm hopeful that whatever they do on Saturday, it's the end of this feud between KO and Zayn against the Judgment Day. Backstage, Matt Riddle was trying to convince Drew McIntyre to let them keep teaming together. He had a photo, a mock-up photo of McIntyre wearing matching gear with Riddle, and Riddle suggested that maybe they could even wear matching kilts. McIntyre was not thrilled about this, as you might expect, but he did agree that they could go out there and watch the Viking Raiders versus the New Day, and that's still to come. We had a Raquel versus Rhea Ripley video package. Rhea will be defending her title against Raquel this coming Saturday at Payback. More on that in a little bit. We had what was one of the better Raw segments in recent memory, as far as I'm concerned. We had LA Knight come into the ring, but guess what? It was not LA Knight, but rather The Miz. The Miz was dressed up as LA Knight. He was saying yeah over and over again. He had the voice down perfectly, I think. He sounded just like LA Knight. He looked just like him. He had the fake beard and everything. Miz did an absolutely fantastic job here spoofing LA Knight. Like it was on point. And like I said, one of the better WWE TV segments, not just Raw, but SmackDown too, in recent memory. And yes, The Miz did imitate The Rock way back in the day. Miz is awesome. He definitely earned that nickname being the awesome one with this segment here. He was very entertaining, and he said the impression was easy because LA Knight is generic. Anybody can be him, and he is going to expose LA Knight this Saturday. This was one of the few segments on this show that actually got me more excited for the match on Saturday. Like, I have to tell you guys, there wasn't too much that happened on this Raw that got me hyped up for Payback, but this did it. This was really good. And it's funny, my wife was watching, and I'm like, look at the TV. And she's like, what? It's LA Knight. Like, it took her a minute to realize that it was actually The Miz dressed up as LA Knight. Loved it. 5-star segment as far as I'm concerned. This is one of those, I give Raw a letter grade up because of this, because it was that damn good. We had the Viking Raiders versus the New Day in a tag team match. The Raiders dominated early on, working over Xavier Woods. Kofi did get a hot tag. He came off the top with a crossbody, but Ivar kicked out, and then Eric pulled Ivar to the outside. Kofi did a dive onto Ivar, and then during the commercial break, the Viking Raiders took control of the match. Valhalla got on the apron to distract Xavier and prevent a tag, but eventually Xavier was able to get back in there. Crowd started chanting, "Whoop that trick," which is a Memphis thing, and WWE was in Memphis. And I should note that Jerry the King Lawler made an appearance in front of the fans during one of the commercial breaks. You could check out that clip over on NoDQ.com. Kofi Kingston came back in. Ivar avoided the tip, the Trouble in Paradise. Both of them ended up on the outside of the ring, and you had Drew McIntyre and Matt Riddle sitting there watching the match, and this was the one negative. This was a pretty good match, but I was not fully invested in it because with McIntyre and Riddle out there, it's a neon sign. Whenever you see a wrestler sitting there in the chair by the commentary desk, 9 times out of 10, something's going to happen with them. And sure enough, Ivar sent Kofi Kingston into McIntyre and Riddle. And of course, every time the guy that gets attacked has to retaliate, McIntyre started throwing chairs into the ring. He tried to throw one at Eric, but missed and accidentally hit Xavier Woods. Raiders took advantage and hit the double power bomb to score the win. Basically, stupid babyface in the form of Drew McIntyre. He lost his cool, which is something a good guy should not do as far as I'm concerned. Like, I want to cheer them, and I cannot cheer them if they cannot control their emotions and just let it go. So anyways, match was good, but I'm tired of this deal with the guys sitting there at ringside getting hit and then they have to do something. It's just way overdone. We had Finn Balor backstage with Damien Priest saying they needed to get on the same page for their tag team title match at Payback, and Priest told Balor that they need to stop worrying about people that don't matter, like JD McDonough. He's not part of Judgment Day. He does not care about JD McDonough. Rhea Ripley was very upset, and she was Peacemaker once again, and she maybe gave them an ultimatum. She said that if they do not win the tag team titles, there's going to be some changes. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean they're going to lose and that's going to continue the breakup storyline, or will they somehow win and Rhea Ripley will be satisfied? I guess we'll see this Saturday at Payback. We had the Bray Wyatt tribute video air, and all the fans held up their cell phones to represent the Fireflies, and we had the the Bray Wyatt rocking chair on the stage. Very classy to once again pay tribute to him. I figured they would. The only thing, though, that they did not do, they should have aired some videos of wrestlers talking about him, telling their stories. Like, I think that would have been a nice little touch, just to make them more personable also. Like, hey, this was not just a coworker, but a close friend. And, these guys, even though they are superstars, they're human beings too. But I like what they did here with the chair and everything and the fireflies. And there were different tributes throughout the show in more subtle ways. Like several wrestlers were wearing armbands and such. And backstage, there was another segment with Drew McIntyre, Matt Riddle, Kofi Kingston. They were checking in on Xavier. Kofi said everything's good, and McIntyre said next week they're going to take care of the Viking Raiders. And I guess there's going to be a tornado tag team match on next week's show. Matt Riddle gets his wish. He gets another tag match with Riddle. Gunther came to the ring for a promo. He stood on the announce table as he's been doing. He said, yes, Gable did make history. However, it was, while technically a victory, it really meant nothing. Gunther's pissed off, and he said that in the rematch next week on Raw, he's going to take care of Gable and become the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. And then Chad Gable showed up for his one-on-one match with Ludwig Kaiser. I'm a little disappointed. I think they should have done the IC title match at Payback and had Kurt Angle there in Pittsburgh, because nobody believes that Chad Gable is beating Gunther on Raw next week. At least if he did it at Payback with Kurt Angle there in Pittsburgh, maybe just a little bit of hope that Gable could pull off the big victory. I think they missed an opportunity here. Like, it almost feels like a throwaway match on Raw. So I'm bummed out. I think it would have been an awesome pay-per-view match with a ton of heat if you had Kurt Angle there in Chad Gable's corner in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I just feel like they're missing the boat on this one. I don't like that it's on Raw next week. I mean, to me, it's painfully obvious Gunther's winning. I mean, even if they did the Payback match, it still would be fairly, I'd be able to say with a fair amount of confidence that Gunther would retain his championship. We had a competitive match with Chad Gable and Ludwig Kaiser. It was a good match, lengthy match here. And it was good, although I could not really get very invested in it because Chad Gable is clearly winning to set up him versus Gunther. Like, it would be stupid for him to lose right before he's challenging for the title. So it was long and it was a good match, but then they did a cheap DQ finish. Like, they couldn't even have Gable beat Kaiser with a pin or submission. You had Vinci interfering, causing a disqualification to break up Gable's German suplex pinning move that he calls the chaos theory. And after the match, there was a brawl. Otis got in, but he got thrown into the ring post. And then Gunther got in. Gable applied the ankle lock to Gunther, but it was 3-on-1. Odds were not in his favor. And then Gable got powerbombed by Gunther to set up the match on next week's show. Angle was fine, but again, I would have preferred this on the pay-per-view and not on Raw next week. WWE did acknowledge the passing of Bob Barker from The Price is Right. He was a Raw guest host and arguably the best Raw guest host, won a Slammy Award, and I say he deserves that title, greatest Raw guest host of all time. Now, to be fair, I mean, that's not saying a whole lot, but Bob Barker was very entertaining and definitely showed more passion for it than 95% of the other guest hosts, I would say. Seth freaking Rollins came out for a promo, and he said Yowie Wowie in tribute to Bray Wyatt. He also, you might have missed this, but he had one of the side plates as the Fiend's logo. Nice little tribute there that you might have missed if you weren't paying attention closely. He called out Shinsuke Nakamura. Crowd was once again chanting, "Whoop that trick." But instead of Nakamura showing up, there was a video package. Nakamura was doing some martial arts, and there were subtitles again. He basically said he's going to dismantle the man Seth Rollins at Payback. He has no code. He has no future. That's what Nakamura said about Rollins. Rollins responded by wanting to know what happened to the Nakamura that headlined the Tokyo Dome and lit the world on fire in NXT. Where was that Nakamura? And as he was talking here, Nakamura once again attacked Seth Rollins and left him laying. I do not think Nakamura is winning the title, but you have to stay tuned for predictions coming up Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be doing Payback predictions. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens cut a backstage promo hyping up the Payback match. It's going to be a Steel City street fight. So I'm guessing kendo sticks and chairs and basically what we saw in the main event of Raw. More on that in a few moments. We had Tommaso Ciampa come into the ring for a match with Bronson Reed. Reed jumped Ciampa during his entrance, and Ciampa was able to fight back. After the commercial break, the match officially began, and Ciampa was impressive here. He picked up Reed with an air raid crash, but Reed kicked out, and they fought on the outside of the ring. Ciampa was thrown off the apron onto the steps, and then Reed came off the apron with a diving shoulder tackle. And then back in the ring, Ciampa hit the Willow's Bell, running knee, but Reed kicked out, and eventually Ciampa was able to get the win. A very awkward-looking pin. Did not look like they were able to execute it the way they wanted it to. And then even weirder, they played some random-ass music for Ciampa. I'm not even sure what the hell it was. This felt like a WCW 2000 level mistake, like playing some random song. Maybe it was Ciampa's old music. Like I did not recognize what it was. I had no clue other than it was his old music. Beyond that, I have no idea what it was. Match was fine, but yeah, the finish did not look good, and yeah, I'm not sure what was up with the music at the end. Still no Johnny Gargano either, so I'm not sure where they're going with that. Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Walter. Much appreciated. Says, I love this version of Nakamura. Get the jobber stank off of him. Years of damage will take more than one match to reverse, but on the right track. Well, let's see how you feel after Saturday. That's all I have to say. Like, again, we're going to save it for predictions, but spoiler alert, I think it's highly unlikely Nakamura wins that world title. I think he's just somebody that Seth Rollins is going to beat on a WWE pay-per-view. We had a backstage promo from Becky Lynch and then a backstage promo from Zoey Stark to hype up their main event match, the Falls Count Anywhere match. And then we had Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio come to the ring for a promo. They showed Tiffany Stratton at ringside during this show. Rhea basically said she's beating Raquel at Payback. Raquel marched to the ring. A fight broke out. Raquel sent Rhea out of the ring with a fallaway slam. Dominic came in and then started begging off. Rhea Ripley took advantage. Could not hit the riptide, though, and ended up retreating. Another match where I think it's painfully obvious who's winning, but we'll talk about that when we do the predictions video. We had a Terry Funk video. I believe it's the same one that aired on Friday. They aired that. Same thing as earlier with the Bray Wyatt video. I figured they would replay the videos, but still, I would have liked to have heard some comments from the wrestlers, and maybe the same thing for Funk. Like, have Rollins tell us his favorite Terry Funk memory. Like, I just think, in addition to it being a nice tribute, it would also make the wrestlers more personable, and I think it would just give you more emotional attachment to the wrestlers to see them, upset that somebody they cared about passed away. I don't know. I think they should have done that, but what they did was still very classy. We had our main event, Becky Lynch versus Zoey Stark in a Falls Count Anywhere match, and it was essentially a handicap match. I mean, that was the story here. You had kendo sticks, you had steel chairs, and Trish Stratus was interfering. She hit Becky with a kendo stick from behind. Becky tried to fight them off. She came off the top of the cross body onto both of them. But Trish kept interfering. Trish was throwing chairs into the ring, kind of channeling Terry Funk when you think about it. Terry was famous for doing that. And one of the chairs accidentally hit Zoey in the face. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. And Trish at one point broke up a manhandle slam attempt. Becky had enough. She chased Trish away with a kendo stick, chased her to the back. Match continued after the commercial break. And they fought on the outside of the ring. But before that, Becky had given Zoey a superplex onto a stack of chairs, took her to the outside, and then tried to give Zoey a manhandle slam on the table. But guess who returned? Trish Stratus, interfering once again. And then Trish gave Becky a bulldog through the timekeeper's table at ringside. And then Trish put Zoey on Becky, but Becky still managed to kick out. Then they fought in the stands, and there was this platform set up, and there were tables all around the platform, so you kind of know where this is going. They fought on top of the platform, but Zoey accidentally knocked Trish off the platform. Trish fell through a table, and then Becky put Zoey through a table, sending her off the platform through the table on the other side, and Trish, who was knocked out on the other side, could not save Zoey. Becky Lynch picked up the victory, 1-2-3. Still no Lita. Lita has disappeared, never to return again. Good match here. I mean, I'll say this much. It was a significantly better hardcore match than that hardcore match on SmackDown. I mean, that was a good match on SmackDown, but this was more hardcore than that match, and they were billing that as a hardcore match. Nice moment at the end, too, because Becky was holding up the Bray Wyatt armband, and she was starting to cry. So, I mean, that was a really nice ending to the show. Raw was decent, but I have to make it clear here. There was only one segment that really got me hyped up for Payback, and that was The Miz. The Miz imitating LA Knight. That was an A+ segment. Rest of the show was average. As far as go-home shows are, it was average. So normally I would go in the C territory. Miz bumps it up. I'm going as high as B- for this Raw, and a lot of that is due to the Miz. We did have some good wrestling on the show, although I hated the DQ finish, but main event was pretty good, although predictable. Again, Becky Lynch is not likely to lose before the match with Trish Stratus, so the matches were very predictable, but solid. B-, I think, is a very generous letter grade for this week's show. Definitely check out the Miz's segment. I mean, that was, as the Miz might say, that was must-see TV. That's all I got for Raw. We will be back with the Payback predictions Tuesday night. 7 p.m. Eastern if you're going to watch live. And of course, it'll be available on demand as all the other streams are. Follow at youtube.com/AaronRift NoDQ. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe out there. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com. NoDQ.com will keep you updated with the latest wrestling news and rumors. See you next time.